You are now standing at the grave of Rosanna Rush Merrill. She was, among other things, a Civil War nurse. Her grave has been unmarked and largely forgotten for nearly 100 years, until in 2022, when volunteers placed a granite stone here. This is just one of the many women that served in one of the most difficult times in the history of America. We are researching and working now to find out the stories of all of them. Finding all the names of all the nurses will be a task that may never be completed. Clara Barton herself stated that we may never know the true number. It is estimated that over 6,000 nurses served in the Civil War, and this is a conservative estimate. Not all of the nurses were acknowledged, even back then while they served. Some worked in such horrible conditions that they did not live very long following their service. One such woman, a Catholic nurse, answered the call of the need for nurses in Mound City, Illinois. She worked for less than a month, contracted an illness, and died. Only her first name is known. Unfortunately, this story is not unique. There are many others like it. Some nurses were recorded in military records as only on duty. Some received a small stipend and meager quarters while serving. Many received nothing. None received pensions until after the successful passage of the Nurses' Pension Act of 1892. One Iowan, Annie Wittenmeyer, was one of the past national presidents of the Women's Relief Corps. She was critically important in the organization and is credited with being the main reason that the Nurses' Pension Act in 1892 got passed. She was a tall woman with remarkable demeanor and presence. She showed up at Congress and went to every legislator with stories of the difficulties that the nurses encountered and were left with no pension and assistance. At one point, it is said that she nearly camped out at the front of some offices, refusing to take no for an answer. Kathy Bauer, who is now the current National Secretary of the National Women's Relief Corps, says proudly, "Annie is a superhero in our organization." Let's get back to this spot we're at now. Rosanna Rush was born in New Jersey in 1843. She is said to be a direct descendant of Dr. Benjamin Rush, a signer of the Declaration of Independence. Her mother would die when she was only 8 years old. Her father was dead by the time she was 17. Rosanna would begin serving as a nurse during the Civil War in Washington, D.C. before her 20th birthday. She married 12/31/1863 to Lieutenant Henry Merrill of the 15th New Jersey Infantry. By 1877, her fifth child would be born in Des Moines, Iowa. According to the census records, Rosanna Rush Merrill was in Iowa till at least 1895. In her later years, she would live with a son in South Dakota, but at the end of her life, she chose to move back to Iowa and live with her daughter. She died here in 1923. Today, she is remembered, and hopefully with research and documentation by those like yourself, many of her peers will also be remembered for their great sacrifices.